Hello, my handsome friends. I'm Yi-Sheng. Welcome to Epigram's Ask Authors Anything. I'm the author of Product Placement, Lion City, and I'm here to answer the various questions that people sent me through social media. For instance, At Her Majesty of Pluto asks, are you more creatively productive during the circuit breaker? No, I'm not. I mean, I thought maybe I might be, and in fact, during April I kind of was, but only because April happens to be Singapore Poetry Writing Month, so every April I, together with like 1,000 other Singaporeans, try and write one poem every day. And a lot of my poems were about how depressed I was during the circuit breaker and COVID-19 because I do have a history of clinical depression. And so, yeah, that's been weighing me down. I haven't been doing creative writing otherwise. I have been working on an introduction to an anthology I'm doing with Epigram. I have been marking, leaving comments for my writing students, but yeah, I haven't been creatively writing so much, so I'm looking forward to doing that soon. But no, it's not easy. Yeah, I just look at the news out there and I just feel wrecked. Moving on. At Edwin Lannister asks, writing essentials? For me, writing essentials would be, laptop, privacy, and just a bit of focus, the right mental state. And a stimulus would be useful as well. At Sherman ZXC _ asks, which authors and works have influenced your work? Well, there is a gigantic range of writers who have influenced me. I think in Lion City, I made a lot of influences were very clear. I'm very influenced by Jorge Luis Borges, the Argentinian short story writer. I'm also actually quite influenced by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the Colombian fiction writer. But also, I just loved reading fantasy as a kid. So yeah, Lewis Carroll, then discovering that, there were Singaporean fantasy and sci-fi writers when I grew up. So even, I paid homage to Han Mei, who wrote Singapore's first science fiction novel, Stars of Fire. Yeah, actually right now I think I'm influenced a lot by the people around me who are writing, this generation of writers. Joshua Ip, Stephanie Dogfoot, Pooja Nancy. I'm just taking them all in. At Clau Kanchin asks, what would you say is your favorite underrated book? I realized one of the books that I really do love and which I actually use in my teaching is this. It's called Rojak. It's by Amir Muhammad. Amir Muhammad is a Malaysian filmmaker, writer, and publisher. He's the guy behind Buku Fiksi, this amazing KL press. He wrote this collection of these short fictions, these micro fictions, back in 2010 for a British Council event, and they're delightful. They're told from the point of view of so many of different races, different genders, different classes, and they're these super short, super cheeky views of Malaysian life. Unfortunately, it was on a very limited print run. It is because it's these microfictions, it's not seen as high art. So yeah, even though I'm using it in my classes, it's not really canonical. But yes, Amir Muhammad, I love you. Ethan Yo asks, name your top 10 desert island books. Now, this is a very leche question, okay? 10. You really want me to make this video longer by naming 10 books? One obvious answer, it would be a book about how to survive on a desert island. If I'm going to be stranded on a desert island without anyone to talk to, I'd need to really, have a lot of spiritual guidance and also have really long books to read. And so I thought, like, let me get these really long epics from, from Asian religions, like the Ramayana, like the Mahabharata, like the Lotus Sutra, like the Guru Granth Sahib. Maybe also some epics like the Siu-Tzi and Surat Chintini as well. Also, if I, with the books I have left over, I think I'll like, I want some books to learn like Sanskrit and maybe classical Chinese so I can read those books in the original language. I need some books just to relax with. Yeah, and also I would want an empty book to write in. And Sufyan Hakim asked, how many of those Helvetica name t-shirts do you own? Yeah, I created this series of Helvetica t-shirts, making a list of things which I feel are important in my culture. These are like names of empires that Singapore was part of through history. And I made 26 designs, but I was looking through my wardrobe just now and I can't find some, whereas I have extra copies of others because other people asked for them and I got them made and they never picked them up from me. At Apollo's Michio Reads asks, where do you get your writing inspiration from? And a lot of stories in Lion City are about like metaphors for Singapore, like Little Red Dot, or like Food Paradise. And I started with that title, imagining like, okay, what kind of cool story could result from that title? But a lot of them begin with a what if scenario, like saying like, okay, well, what if I discovered that I had been a bowl of laksa in my previous life? How would I react? And it actually flows pretty organically from there. A lot of what-if scenarios. But, in other cases, it's a challenge I set myself. For instance, in, I think, the last story, No Other City, part of it was me thinking, can I write a story that's in second-person future tense? Yeah, so these little parameters I set myself, they can end up making publishable things. At Sondershire asks, what was your process when writing Garden, the choose your own adventure story? Yes. Another thing I wanted to mention in terms of like me setting little tasks for myself is that a lot of these stories were written while I was in a university program. Many were written while I was doing my master's at the University of East Anglia, but right now I am doing my PhD at NTU, and I was in this great workshop at NTU with like published writers like John Gresham, Buddy Kaur Jaswal, emerging writers like Prasanthi Ram and Erin Alicia Fong, who had been writing this story made up of museum labels from different eras in time, and I began to think, I'd like to do something similar. I'd like to have a story that jumps in between eras of time. And at that time, I was trying to finish up Lion City. I knew I needed a story that had something to do with Singapore's reputation as a garden. And I'd been reading about the whole idea of the garden as this magical place or where anything can happen in Malay mythology. So I began to imagine, let's have a story where someone time travels between different gardens in Singapore history. In a sense, it wasn't that hard to write because, you just write a tiny bit for each era. Also, I was writing it for a workshop, so I was like writing on deadline. So I was like going, okay, I'll just set myself these eras. I will try and get enough details about these eras. Like, the Lee Kuan Yew scene during the Japanese occupation was actually helped by the fact that I had worked on a play back in 2007 called Reservoir about the fact that there was a Japanese shrine at McGregor Reservoir. So I kept on writing and mapping several scenarios that are in my head. It's not that complicated a story. There's only just a few routes she can take. Thinking about in what scenarios would she die? What is the longest, most satisfying scenario I can make? How can I order it so that it's in chronological order, but it will force the reader to flip back and forth? And also, if a reader does not want to flip back and forth, just insists on reading it from beginning to end, will it still make sense? And there was also a very interesting moment when I was like thinking, okay, in the future, who will Singapore be colonized by next? I mean, like, what characters can I invent? And then I thought, hey, I'm writing this on a deadline. I don't have to do this work. I can just like pay homage to other writers, like use their characters, and I got their permissions, luckily. And I just stole these characters and put them in, often just like copy details wholesale from the original books. And like Kevin Martin Wong's Outer Straits, I used all these details that were already in his book, and like my prof was like, "Wow, you have such a great imagination." And I was like, "No, I stole it all." One thing I tried to do in that book was I tried to have, in that short story, I tried to have an equal number of male and female point of view characters, because I'm quite interested in women's stories in history. The fact that there are so many remarkable women in history whose lives we don't really know that much about. So yeah, instead of showing Sun Yat-sen, I showed his Malayan wife, Chen Sui-fen. I had a lot of fun with that story, although I was like furiously writing and staying up till 4 a.m. to write it. But like, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Ke Wei Liang asks, what is your favorite Pokemon currently inside your Pokemon Go app? I think I've got 100% IV Blissey, okay, and I've maxed its CP, so. At Magnala Liti asks, if you were an instrument, what instrument would you be? An instrument of mass construction? Triangle, maybe, I feel. Or a gong. I'm pretty basic. Oh, at Ashitan asks, which of your stories would you like to see as a movie / live action, and who acts in it? I'd like it to be Garden. I'd like there to be a TV series in which, you know, Dang Anom has traveled from the 14th century and she's going through every single era of Singapore history, and every episode is a different era. I mean, if I had unlimited budget, that would be... I'd love to see that happen. Yeah, but I'm also working on some novels now, and those I feel like would work as pretty well as TV series. So, you know, akan datang. Junho asks, I'd like to know which piece of advice on writing you're glad that you didn't follow. This is a great question. I'm at that point in my life where I'm pretty confident of my writing voice, where even though I still do workshop my writing, and listen to what people say, I often don't follow because I'm able to trust my instincts. I do have a certain style. Right now, you know, I'm still writing for a primarily Singapore audience. I imagine, I've heard that from my friends who publish internationally. With the big leagues, you know, when they tell you change something, you've just got to change something. So I don't look forward to that. I suppose one of the big pieces of advice I've got is from my mum, who says, you know, stop writing so much gay stuff. You know, and I go like, no, I'm going to write lots of gay stuff. I mean, it's not going to be everything I write because I want to explore lots of different perspectives. But yeah, I mean, I like writing gay stuff. I know a lot of you like reading gay stuff, you know, regardless of your gender orientation. So like, yeah, let's write lots of gay stuff. At Where is the Lav asks, will you ever help to edit another gay anthology? This person is probably referring to the fact that in 2010, I co-edited this anthology, Gasp, an anthology of queer Singaporean writing. Yeah, we're actually trying to get this republished this year with Math Paper Press. Also, just last year, I did co-edit another anthology of queer writing that was regional from across Asia. So it's got works from Bangladesh, from, you know, Malaysia, from Singapore. Sanctuary, you can get it off Amazon, yeah, and other ebook sites. Short fiction from Queer Asia. It's published in Hong Kong. But I'm also currently working with friends like Stephanie Chan and Koklia Animale and Atifa Othman to create a multilingual anthology of queer writing. We'll have 2 volumes, one poetry and one prose. I'm working on it right now. It's one of the reasons I can't get down to the novels I'm supposed to be working on, so stay tuned. At QUB Scholar asks, How difficult is it for new writers to publish their work? Honestly, in Singapore, it's not that difficult. First of all, when you say publish, you can self-publish these days as an ebook. You can even make it available on Amazon. You can make it available for download. You can share it on your website. That's a kind of publishing. It can and does reach people as well. It can be a step towards page publishing. That and also submitting to journals. Online journals, both in Singapore and internationally. A lot of us are getting our start that way. But you probably mean page publishing, and in Singapore that is relatively easy as well. Relatively, I say. Not everyone's going to be able to do it, but in Singapore we are lucky enough to have a number of publishers, including Epigram, including Math Paper Press, including Ethos Books, who are actually quite eager to hear new voices, to share Singaporean stories, because there's this feeling that we still haven't really built our national literary culture yet. So they are a lot more open to looking at and publishing an unknown voice than a lot of other big publishers internationally. I've learned this from going UK and America, and people being astounded that I've been able to publish this much, because in many other countries and cities it's not that easy. I'm not saying it's going to be easy for you guys, but in Singapore it's not too hard. It's not too impossible. Just do try and get your voice heard. At Kweki asks, so what did Sang Nila Utama see when he arrived on his island, if it wasn't a lion? Okay, I've been seeing a number of theories about this. The whole idea is according to the Sulalatul Salatin, also called the Sejarah Melayu, when Sang Nila Utama came to Singapore, he saw a beast with a red body and a black mane, and he was saying, what beast is that? And his advisor told him, oh, I think it's a lion. And Sang Nila Utama said, well, that's a sign that this is a great place to build a city. I am naming this place after that thing. So it's a lion, it's a Singa, hence Singapura, Lion City. And people go, well, there are no lions in Singapore, so what he must have seen was a tiger. And I go, no. Sang Nila Utama is a hunter. There's scenes of him hunting in the Sulalatul Salatin. He would have known what a tiger looks like. He would have known what a tapir looks like. He would have known what, a civet cat looks like. So, this idea that what he saw was just another natural beast, that doesn't make sense. What he saw was a divine vision. He sees a divine vision that tells him that this is a good place to build a city. And you've got to remember, at this time when we don't have zoos in every country, the idea of what a lion is in Southeast Asia, it's pretty much a mythological animal. Lions are something they've only heard about from descriptions or mentions of lions in Buddhist scriptures, because India had lions. They are mythological animals. They're imaginary. They've never seen one. They are imbued with all this mystical power. So yeah, it's like him saying he saw a dragon. So it's he says he saw a lion here. He had a mystical vision. Yeah, it's magical. Rodrigo de la Peña Jr. asks, who would you be if you were a mythological character? When I was a kid, I had a big crisis, where I was coming out. I was going oh, there are no role models for me as a young, queer, Chinese guy. And I was overjoyed to discover that one of the 8 immortals is this androgynous, youthful being who carries around a basket of flower and fruit. He's called Lan Cai He, and I, decided to embrace Lan Cai He as this icon for myself, this androgynous patron saint of theatre makers. But as I've gotten older, I realized there's a certain degree of tension when I sort of try and identify with a being who's eternally young. And part of me goes like, maybe the creature I identify with the most with is the hungry ghost. It's a Buddhist creature of desire, unfulfilled desire, and unable to leave the world with not enough love, and yeah, according to Buddhist belief, when I die, if no one leaves offerings for me, that's what I'm going to become as well. So maybe, yeah, I'm hungry ghost, you're a hungry ghost, we're all hungry ghosts. Natalie Wang asks, what is your favorite kueh? I'm really basic. It's kueh lapis, the rainbow kind, Yi-Sheng, that's what we call it in Chinese. Yeah, I like, buying it from Bengawan Solo and peeling it and eating it layer by layer. Olivia Chung asks, what's your favorite popsicle? I've made a lot of fruit popsicles. I can't remember which one was the most delicious. Because there are ingredients which are always delicious in there, like custard apple, sour sop. But raspberry, oh my god, raspberry. But the most memorable would be this time I got hold of miracle fruit. It's this fruit that mutes the sour taste buds in your tongue, and so I decided to make a sour lolly, and I put in lemons and grapefruit and cranberries and all these super sour fruit, and I packed them together, and I kind of ate them having miracle fruit, so it tasted really sweet. But then I forgot that even though you can't taste the sourness with your taste buds, sourness is acidity, and so I could feel it burning my esophagus as I was eating it, and that was memorable. And I do not blame the lolly for making me feel so sour. Kamal Firdaus Saini asks, what keeps you up at night and what gets you out of bed in the morning? Right now, one way I'm trying to make the most of the circuit breaker is I'm reading long books that I didn't really have time to read during normal hours. So I'm staying up till 1 to 2, just reading books by my friends. Like right now, I'm reading Delayed Race of a Star by Amanda Lee Coe, which is brilliant, by the way. And what gets me up? Well, it's my phone alarm. I try and get up by, well, it used to be try and get up at 8, now it's 9:30. I'm just trying to have some kind of structure to my life, because otherwise I'll just fall apart and not write very much, not work very much. Yeah, a good old digital alarm. One last question, and this I have decided to classify as the best question. Prist SL asks, why does it seem difficult to appreciate and understand poetry without dissecting it and using literary devices? How can students learn to appreciate and enjoy poetry more without having to do some hard structured processing work? I mean, I'm also teaching writing, and so this is why I think this is the prize-winning question. It's a really important question that a lot of us are struggling. My theory is that it is because we look at poetry as something that's not already part of our lives. When we study a poem by Shakespeare or Li Bai or Wordsworth or Dylan Thomas, or even by Edwin Dambu or Pooja Nancy, most kids are like, this has nothing to do with me. But traditionally, people would have poetry in their lives. It's still older generations of Malay folks in Singapore, and the Malay words still can generate pantun at the drop of a hat, improvise things, drawing on age-old symbols, drawing on idioms they know. And in other ways, songs are poetry, the words of songs. Yeah, rap music. We are still using language in that way all the time. Or everyone has their favorite songs, and often they think about those words, and those those songs use metaphors, those songs use rhythm and rhyme and all those things that are used in poetry. And so what we've got right now is that we've got a divide between the way poetry actually is used for pleasure in everyday life with these songs, and the way that it's being used in school, where it's like, can you give me proof that you're good enough at English or another language? Can this be another thing we examine? What I think is that we should start encouraging kids to think about the songs they love, the popular songs. Yeah, even the jokes and memes that they have. And like have them bring these into class and share them with teachers, and like the little rhymes they make up. And after that, we've all had a great laugh and watched the music videos. We start to examine them and understand like how these are poetry as well, because they are using these techniques of metaphor, of rhythm, of storytelling, which are found in the poems that are in the Western and Eastern canons. We need to understand that poetry is not just what is published in approved books, but it's also the beautiful uses of language that are in speeches, which are in social media accounts sometimes. And because once the kids are able learn that these beautiful uses of language are there around them, and that they have wonderful, deep histories in every culture, they'll be able to learn how to value language, maybe use it better for themselves. Okay, I think I've reached my maximum length. That's it for Ask Authors Anything. At ChrisSL, you win a prize. And okay, I'm told if you have any other burning questions, please contact Epigram at Facebook, Oilk, or Instagram. Thanks for support. Please stay safe during this year of COVID, and I love you all.